Don't forget to like the video, share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to stay updated with our latest video. This is an exclusive interview with Sharon and Ozzy Osbourne, marking their first TV appearance since Ozzy's return from major surgery. Every time we plan to go, Ozzy's health issues prevent us from making it. I tell my doctor this, and he asks, "How are you alive?" He thinks that the fact that you're breathing is a biological miracle. Balancing fame, wealth, and personal problems has made the lives of many rock stars very chaotic, and Ozzy Osbourne is no different. She went from having a troubled childhood in Birmingham to shaping heavy metal. His journey has been anything but normal. Behind the crazy shows and scandals is a story of addiction, recovery, and strength. Now, a shocking new detail about his past has scared fans into wondering what really happened to the Prince of Darkness. If you want to know the truth about Ozzy Osbourne's childhood in Birmingham in the late 1940s, stay tuned. Aston, an unexplored part of Birmingham, was filled with the smell of molten metal on December 3, 1948. Birmingham was a city full of industrial activity. John Michael Osbourne, who became known as Ozzy Osbourne, was born into a time and place with many problems. He grew up in a small house with 5 brothers. Ozzy's father, John Thomas Jack Osbourne, worked in a toolmaking factory, and his mother, Lillian Osbourne, worked on an assembly line in a car plant. They had a challenging time with money, which led to many fights between them. But that's not all about Ozzy's childhood. Stay tuned for more information. From a very young age, Ozzy had many problems. Ozzy received a dyslexia diagnosis and struggled to learn in a school system that failed to comprehend or assist him. His teachers were rude and sometimes abusive, and his classmates made fun of him all the time. Even his parents didn't see his problems because they thought he was just a slow learner and not a child who needed help. The bullying he went through was constant. When he was 11, 2 classmates made fun of him in public and hit him, leaving him with deep psychological scars. Even though his younger sister saw the abuse, she was too scared to help, and his parents didn't know he was hurting. By the time he was 14, the weight of his hopelessness became too much for him to bear. He tried to kill himself but was saved by his father. Unfortunately, his father, who believed that punishment was the best way to solve problems, abused Ozzy instead of providing comfort. This experience made Ozzy feel even more alone and hurt. When he was 15, he felt trapped in an educational system that didn't accept him, so he quit school. He then tried odd jobs like working as a factory worker, plumber, and painter, but none of them lasted long because he wasn't paying attention or being careful. He then turned to petty crime to make money, and he got a short prison sentence at age 17. The next shocking thing about Ozzy's life was that his love for music never changed. The Beatles became a source of hope for young Ozzy. "The first time I heard 'She Loves You,'" he recalled, "was a moment of profound inspiration. That moment set off a dream that would change his life forever." In his early music career, Ozzy Osbourne came out of prison with a single goal: to become a singer. He had no training, no money, and no musical skills, just a strong desire. That drive led him to a newspaper ad looking for a vocalist for a new rock band. In 1968, a tall, messy-haired man with a terrible voice walked into a poorly lit rehearsal room in Birmingham, where he met guitarist Tony Iommi, bassist Geezer Butler, and drummer Bill Ward. Together, they formed Black Sabbath, a band that would change the course of music forever. They were originally called Earth, but they changed their name after a Boris Karloff horror movie. Ozzy's eerie vocals and Iommi's heavy riffs created a new sound in the music industry that was primal, raw, and groundbreaking. In 1970, they released their first album, Black Sabbath. The opening track was full of threatening sounds like tolling bells and a 3-note riff that made the song feel like it was calling people to rituals. Even though critics didn't like the song, Outcasts and Misfits embraced it later that year, and Paranoid solidified their legacy. In just 1 year, Man became a heavy metal anthem, and Paranoid, a song written in 20 minutes, became one of rock's most famous songs. Black Sabbath went from being unknown to becoming legends, creating a whole genre called heavy metal. But just as things were looking up for Ozzy, something happened that almost ended his success. In the 1970s, when Black Sabbath released one legendary album after another, it was also the year that Ozzy started losing control of his life. Drinking, drugs, and endless parties made him a volatile presence in the band. At first, the whole group lived this way, but Ozzy couldn't keep himself together and showed up to recording sessions. While drunk, he forgot lyrics, fought with bandmates, and, on some days, couldn't even make it on stage. He was still the soul of Black Sabbath, but his instability was becoming a burden. Tensions rose, and Tony Iommi, who used to be Ozzy's best friend, told him, "You can't go on like this." So, after many failed efforts to get Ozzy back on track, Black Sabbath fired Ozzy Osbourne in 1979. That was the final blow. For Ozzy, Black Sabbath wasn't just a band, it was his whole world and the only place he had ever felt like he truly belonged. Being kicked out felt like being erased from existence, so he locked himself in a hotel room and drank and did drugs until he passed out. As he became more depressed and lost in drugs, he stopped caring about the future, thinking about music, and even wanting to live. But then someone came along and pulled him out of the darkness. Sharon Arden is the daughter of Don Arden, who manages Black Sabbath. She saw something in Ozzy that he had forgotten. She wouldn't let him hurt himself, and she wouldn't let him become forgotten as a loser. Sharon thought Ozzy wasn't done, that he wasn't just a member of Black Sabbath, and that he could become a hero in his own right. Being expelled from Black Sabbath seemed like the end, but in reality it was the beginning of an even greater chapter in Ozzy Osbourne's career. So with the help of Sharon he was able to get back on his feet, and this time he was not planning on joining a band, he had something more interesting in mind. Stay tuned to find out what he was going to do next after he got back on his feet. There was one question, and that was what's next for Ozzy. He could not go back to his band, and most bands will not accept him because of his drinking incident, so Sharon suggested that he continue music on his own and she will be his manager. Although everything was in place, one thing was still missing. Ozzy needed a guitarist, and that's when he met Randy Rhoads. The first time he heard Randy play he sobered up instantly. Rhea's technical brilliance and discipline balanced Ozzy's chaos. Together they created Blizzard of Us, featuring musical stars like Crazy Train and Mr. Crowley. It was a massive success, proving Ozzy was more than just Black Sabbath's former frontman. They followed up with Diary of a Madman, further elevating heavy metal. But as everything was going smoothly, tragedy struck. On March 19, 1982, Randy Rhoads died in a plane crash while on tour with Osbourne in Florida. Ozzy was devastated. Not only did he lose a guitarist but also his best friend. He fell into a new downward spiral, but Sharon helped him get back into music, and every year he sends flowers to Rhea's grave as a tribute to the man who helped him get back on track. Even though Ozzy's career took off, no one could ever replace Randy in terms of marriage, health problems, and a lasting legacy. Fame can take a person to the highest heights, but it can also crush them in the darkest places. No one wants to see behind the scenes of a wild rock star. Ozzy Osbourne was a man who not only struggled with addiction, endless drunken nights, and fractured relationships, but his marriage was never a normal story for him. It was a series of mistakes, betrayals, and moments of violence that nearly ended in tragedy in 1971 as Black Sabbath was rising to fame. Ozzy met Thelma Riley, a nightclub worker in Birmingham. After a brief courtship, they married, and Ozzy quickly became the stepfather to Thelma's son, Elliot. They later had 2 children together, Jessica and Louis, but from the very beginning, this was never a peaceful marriage. Ozzy loved Thelma, but he was never truly capable of commitment as his career skyrocketed. Ozzy was hardly ever home. He spent most of his time on tour, but not just for the music. Endless parties, alcohol, drugs, and young women surrounded him, pulling him further away from his family. He cheated more times than he could count, so when he began reflecting on his infidelity, he couldn't even remember how many times he had been unfaithful. Once, right after calling home to speak with his wife, he immediately got in a bed with 3 other women. As his substance abuse spiraled out of control, Thelma finally gave up because she couldn't take it any longer. The marriage endured for over 10 years, yet it ended well before the final divorce in 1982. Ozzy later said that his first marriage was one of the worst things he had ever done, not because he regretted leaving, but because he had been so mean to Thelma, who had no right to go through his chaos. If Ozzy's first marriage was a mistake, his second marriage served as both his salvation and his greatest nightmare. After leaving Black Sabbath, he met Sharon Arden, who was the daughter of Don Arden. Sharon, Black Sabbath's former manager, didn't just love him, she saw something no one else did: he could still come back. She took on the role of his manager, rebuilt his career, and catapulted him back to the top, yet their love story was far from idyllic. Sharon was well aware of Ozzy's crazy, addicted, and out-of-control nature, and she was the only one capable of managing him, despite her limitations. Ozzy suddenly walked up to Sharon in 1989, while she was drinking a lot, looked her straight in the eyes, and said, "We've made a decision, you have to die." Before she could do anything, Ozzy grabbed her by the throat and began choking her. As he lost control, his grip got tighter, but luckily they weren't alone. Just before things went horribly wrong, other people in the house intervened and pulled Ozzy away. The police immediately arrested Ozzy, and Sharon later confessed that she would have immediately shot her to defend herself. When Ozzy woke up in his cold, musty jail cell, he had no memory of what had happened. An officer walked in and told him, "You've been arrested for attempting to murder your wife." It was the most terrifying moment in Ozzy's life. He realized he had crossed a boundary he could never regain. One night in jail freed him, but the damage was already irreparable. This incident marked a turning point in their relationship. Sharon knew she couldn't keep living in fear, but she also understood that Ozzy needed help in the following months. Sharon worked tirelessly to get Ozzy into rehab. It was a grueling process filled with relapses and setbacks, but slowly he began to confront his demons. They both knew it wouldn't be easy, but through therapy and support, they started to rebuild their relationship. After years of turmoil, they married in 1982, and despite the challenges, they became a formidable team both in business and in life. As the years passed, Ozzy's health began to deteriorate after decades of heavy drinking and drug use. He faced numerous health issues, including severe injuries from an ATV accident in 2003. The accident left him with a fractured collarbone, 8 broken ribs, and a shattered vertebrae. Recovery was long and painful, but he persevered, returning to the stage to perform for his fans in 2019. Ozzy received a diagnosis of Parkinson's disease, a revelation that deeply affected him. The diagnosis was a heavy blow, but it didn't break his spirit. He continued to work on new music and plan tours, determined to stay connected to his fans and his craft despite the physical challenges. Ozzy's strength shone through. He often said that music was the only thing that kept him alive and gave him purpose, even when things were hard. But that's not all. Ozzy Osbourne's journey through darkness has made him a cultural icon. From his crazy antics and performances to his openness about addiction and mental health, he's become a symbol of strength. In the early 2000s, he starred in the reality TV show The Osbournes, which gave fans a look into his crazy family life and made the rock star persona more real. Ozzy has received many awards, including Grammys, and has been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame twice, once with Black Sabbath and once as a solo artist, for his contributions to music. His impact on heavy metal and rock music is undeniable, inspiring musicians and fans all over the world. In 2025, Ozzy announced his final tour, saying goodbye to his fans after decades of performing. Fans who had grown up with his music showed their love and support as he prepared for this historic concert. Ozzy thought back on his life and was thankful for the ups and downs that had made him the man he is today. What about Ozzy Osbourne's life most impresses you? Is it his music, his crazy lifestyle, or his unbreakable spirit? Please let us know in the comments below. If you liked this video, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more. Furthermore, click the next video that comes up, and you will enjoy it.